Hey friends, welcome to Mountain Meadow Homestead. My name is Melissa if you're new here, and we're finally thawing out. You can see behind me a lot of the snow has melted in our yard. We still have splotchy patches of snow throughout, and same goes on our property. We've got the area where the garden is going to go. That's all pretty much thawed out, but we've got areas in the pasture that still have quite a bit of snow, and we have water running through our property because that's what happens every spring. And so I'm going to show that all to you, but I wanted to start with what we have here at our house. And because I've got two garden spaces, I've got our house garden, and then I have where we're going to put in a bigger garden up at our property. So here on my patio, I've got a couple things going on. I've got my green stalk, which I got last year for Mother's Day, and I absolutely love it. Last year I did herbs in the top, and then the rest of this is all strawberries. So you can see here, this is my sage, which I did sage over in my greenhouse 2 years ago, and it did come back last year, and so I just left this to see what it would do. And then our strawberries, they are still looking pretty dead from the winter. I'm hoping that they start springing new life here in the next few weeks, but we'll see. I am going to start watering this and checking the soil if it needs water, just because we're starting to get a lot of days where we're not getting any moisture whatsoever. I did have this sitting under like a water spout that was dripping over the winter, so it did get quite a bit of water and wasn't covered in snow. So we'll see how that is. This is just a big experiment. I've never done strawberries in a green stalk. I've heard it does well, but we are a special climate. We get really cold, and so I don't know if these survived or not. We'll see. But our first green anything coming out of the garden is our chives. I've got two of these. I've got one here, and then I have one over there. Last year, we designated each of those to each of our daughters, that our older daughters anyway. They were able to plant just whatever they wanted in there. I think they did like a tomato plant, a pepper plant, some flowers, some carrots. And so they just had a lot of fun with growing whatever they wanted. But this year, I think I'm going to fill these with flowers and herbs and the like, and then give the girls and our toddler son more space in our bigger gardens. So that's what I have on my patio. Over here, I have a garden space where I've got 5 raised beds, and we built these, oh gosh, I think it's been I think it's been about 7 years ago. I think this will be my 7th gardening year. And they're a foot deep, and I've been working on cultivating this soil a lot. I had put down some weed fabric and then, like, what do you call this? Little pebbly rocks. And I've struggled every year with getting grass in here and weeds and all kinds of things. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do this year as far as clean up with this or how I want to maintain this. But as you can see, I started a project this fall and I haven't finished it. We had a huge, horrible vole problem this last year. I've had voles in my garden beds before, and they've nibbled here and there on things, but they've never done the damage that they did last year. I had potatoes in this bed, and they demolished all of them. I didn't get any potatoes. They chewed every single potato that grew. I had some squash plants at the end, demolished those. In this bed, I had carrots and some lettuces and stuff at the end here. I probably harvested maybe a third of the carrots, and the rest of them they had chewed up so badly that I couldn't do anything with it. And then this bed down here, this one, this was full of strawberry plants. So as you can see, there's no more strawberry plants. They're all gone. So, and you can see the remnants of my bean plants. Those are what was left. They chewed up everything. I didn't get a single green bean. This bed I had onions in it, and I was able to harvest my onions. They didn't seem to bother them, but I had planted some flowers along the edge and they demolished those too. So this year, one of the projects that we're going to do this spring before we get into planting season, so here in the next 2 weeks, I hope to have this accomplished. We're going to remove all the soil from these garden beds and put down this hardware cloth. And I'll show you a close-up of what it looks like. But it's just your standard hardware cloth. I thought about doing chicken wire, but then I thought to myself, they're going to be able to, one, either chew through that chicken wire, or two, squeeze through it because they're super tiny, voles are. You can see that I already started on this project in the fall. I wasn't able to get to it until I think it was October, and then the rain came and snow and everything else. So I was just moving dirt from one side of the box to the other and then laying half of it down. But I think what I'm going to do is bring in a tarp and put a tarp over my gravel, shovel out the dirt, lay the hardware cloth down, and then put the dirt back in, because I think that will just be more efficient and it'll be faster. And then hopefully it's ready for planting. I'll probably cover the top of it with cardboard or something so that the weeds don't go crazy. I have been working on this soil for quite a few years. I do not till. I do a no-till method. And so it makes me really sad that I have to pull all this soil out to do this. But I know if I don't, I'm not going to have a harvest. Another thing that we have is back here, this 5th raised bed. These are my raspberries. And so I'm going to need to come in and trim these down. With raspberries here, because we have such a short growing season, I know in other climates, a lot of people will just whack them clear down to the ground and then let them grow up. I feel like if I were to do that, my first year canes, they typically will grow all summer long, and then they don't fruit until September, and then the frost comes and we don't get a huge harvest off of those. The ones that we do get berries off of are the second year canes. So what I typically do, I don't know if I can show you this, is I'll go down to where I can see the last berries were harvested, and then I'll trim it, and then they'll grow berries on the rest of it. So this one is a good example. You can see berries were growing to about here, and it's fairly tall. And so I'll trim it to that point, and then it'll grow berries on the rest of it. I do need to come in and amend the soil a little bit, fertilize it, give it some nutrients, and I'll probably do that here in the next few weeks. This is our makeshift greenhouse, and I'll show this to you here in a minute. This is my in-ground garden bed. I do have some plastic laid down because this area, I was having a problem with it being super weedy. So I'm just trying to work with what I have and whatnot. You can kind of see the plastic here. But this is my trellis that I usually plant peas on. Looks like it needs a little bit of help this year. So here is our makeshift greenhouse that my husband built for me. Essentially what it is some raised garden beds that he built for me. And then we attached cattle panels on top of that. And then here, I'm hoping this week or next week, we're going to throw the greenhouse plastic over it. And then the greenhouse plastic, it just hangs down on each side. And then I just open it up when I need to open it up to let in some cooler air. It does tend to get warm during the day in here. So about May, end of May, beginning of June, I'll have to start opening it up every day. And then about July, it's warm enough at night that I can leave the ends open and not have to worry about it. So I'll just kind of show you in here. What we did is we just took some like metal roofing material, some galvanized metal, and attached it on the inside of these boards. And we created these panels that we then transferred in here. These bigger 4x4 posts, they do go into the ground a ways to help support it. I would say if we were to do this again, if we were to use the metal again, I would probably do posts every 2 feet instead of every 4 feet. I don't know if you can tell, but it does bulge a little bit. So I feel like some little extra support would be nice for it. And that's why we have these braces. We were worried about it falling apart. But honestly, I think if I were to do this again, I would just do all wood. They are, I think they're about 2.5 feet tall. And then they're 2 feet wide. So I usually will plant a lot of my frost tender stuff in here. I do want to experiment in here this year and put some frost hardy like greens in the next few weeks, just to see if I can get some early lettuces and whatnot. So we did have a pretty bad windstorm a year or so ago that we had the greenhouse plastic on, and it like permanently bent the cattle panels. You can kind of, I don't know if you can tell, but they're kind of leaning like this. So I do have to now brace them with a few extra boards that we have. So I've got the boards here, which is kind of a pain when I want to walk through here, but it is what it is. This greenhouse is, I think it's about 28 or it's between 28 and 30 feet long. And then it's about 8 feet wide with a 4-foot walking path in the middle. In the past, I used this area like along the greenhouse. You see how it's pretty shaded most of the day. I'll do a lot of my greens and herbs and stuff here. They do get the afternoon sun, but it helps prevent early bolting if I do it in this area. Last year I did all of my broccoli and cauliflower in a hooped covered row here, and then I usually do like my peas along this side. So we're here at the property, and I'm going to kind of show you what we have already in place and then explain what we have coming up. Over here I have our garden beds. I have 4-foot by 8-foot beds, 2 of them, and I grew a couple different things in these last year, but this far bed I mostly grew wheat in that bed. And so that's what this is the straw from that wheat. And it worked out perfectly because I planted the garlic in here last fall. So I think in this bed, I might have it backwards if I tell you, but in this bed, I think I have the German extra hardy, and then this bed, I have the music variety of garlic, and then I planted some shallots just for kicks and giggles. I've never planted shallots before, and so I wanted to give it a try. And then these are lavender plants. So we'll just see, we'll see how these do. I also have, let's see, I'll show it to you. This is a pineapple mint plant. I have it in a bucket that's buried because mint can be pretty invasive if you're not careful. And so that was kind of my deterrent. And then this one, I'm trying to remember what's in here. Oh, these are garlic chives. So we'll see if those come back or not. And then over here we have some honeyberry plants. You can see the flags. I flagged where they're at because they're pretty tiny plants. When we planted them up here, they were really struggling. So I'm not sure if they had a time to get established before winter came. We'll see. It would be fun if they make it, but if not, we'll just have to replace them. And then last fall, I had some extra topsoil. And so I put the topsoil down here and I added some mushroom compost. and decided to just plant some winter wheat in there. We'll see how it does. And because I've never done that before, I did a spring wheat in this bed. So we'll see how that works. But I'd be super excited if that worked out for me. Then over here is where we're going to put our greenhouse. It looks like a pretty small space on the camera, but our high tunnel is supposed to be 30 by 48, and so that's where this will go. If you can tell on the camera, it's a little sloped, so one of the projects we have to do this spring before we can put this high tunnel in is we need to do some dirt work. We've got to kind of level this out a little bit more. It's not terrible, but it's enough that we want to make sure we get it leveled out before we put that high tunnel in. We also have to work on our water line. So about January, our water line froze and started leaking. And so this water that you see, it's not from it leaking. This is just the nature of having clay soil. We actually have a stream going through our property right now. It's just the winter runoff from the mountains, and it just saturates this ground. And so we have sitting water anywhere there's a dip. So one of our projects, and we'll probably have to wait a month, is we need to dig down and replace, we're thinking it's this spigot that is leaking. And so we're gonna have to replace that spigot is our thought. Right now we have the well turned off, and we only turn it on when we need to fill up the horse's water. That's one project that we need to do once the ground is a little less saturated this spring. So over here, and for reference, here's the spigot and our chicken coop, and then the greenhouse. Over here, we're going to put an orchard eventually. I don't know if we'll end up getting any trees this year, but that is the ultimate goal, is to have our orchard in this area, maybe a nice little sitting area. Down at this far corner here, this is where we normally keep our bees. We want to eventually have anywhere between 5 and 10 hives down here. Last year we had 2. Unfortunately, they did not make it through the winter. I'll walk you down here so that you can see. We have a theory of what might have happened. We think it might be a combination of a couple things. Mac and I, we took a bee class this last fall. Oh, you can see all of our running water. This is our little creek. Anyway, we took a bee class this last fall, and in the bee class, it got brought up that there are some animals like skunks and badgers that like to eat bees. And so if you can see here, you can see where the ground has been disturbed. This was the front of our hives. And so there's a little bit of ground disturbance. We think what happened is we had either a skunk or a badger. We're thinking most likely skunk, just because we've ran into a skunk or two coming up the road. What they do is they'll mess with the front of the hive. They'll like tap on the front of the hive. And so the bees come to the front of the hive to defend it. And then they'll come in and they'll scoop up handfuls of bees and eat them. So we think that's part of what happened. Last fall, when we came to check on them before it snowed a lot, we did notice that the bee level was reduced and there wasn't as much activity. And we also saw a lot of wasps around the hive. So we think wasps invaded the hive and there wasn't enough bees in the hive because of the possible skunk or badger issue. And so they weren't able to defend themselves. So one of the things that we need to do this year is we need to lift our hives up higher. We might put like electric chicken netting around the hives or something. I'm not sure. We need to think about what we're doing, and soon, because in the next 2-ish weeks, we are going to be picking up our newbies We ordered 2 nukes. So we need to get these hives cleaned up. They're actually packed full of honey, and obviously some like dead brood. This is one of the bottom boards. We emptied most of it out, but it did have quite a few bees on there, but not enough to see like a whole hive had died. So lots of projects that need to get accomplished. Need to clean these out. We need to level the ground for the high tunnel and then assemble the high tunnel when it gets here. It's supposed to be here at the end of the month, which is in 2 weeks. We got to fix our water line issue so that our well can be on all the time. And we got to get the bee situation fixed so that we don't lose our bees again. And another issue that we have is we need a bigger chicken run and one that is a little more sturdy for our winters. And so we're going to be building a nice permanent run in the next few weeks, hopefully, and so that they have a nice place to roam around. I don't want them to free range necessarily because they will get into my garden beds and then rip up all my hard work. So we might figure something out where we can do like the electric chicken netting so that they can free range, but in a certain area. That is what our garden spaces look like, kind of our homesteading projects that we have for this summer. We're also going to be putting in another pasture up higher so that we can rotational graze our horses and eventually, hopefully, a couple cows. And I think that's what we're going to limit ourselves to this summer. We have a tendency to take on too many projects and get burnt out. If you enjoyed this video, we'd love it if you would like and share it with others. And if you're not already subscribed, we'd love if you'd stick around for future videos. Comment down below, give us ideas on things, and so that we can all learn together. The beautiful thing about homesteading is you do things and sometimes you fail, sometimes you win, you learn from your mistakes, and through all of this, hopefully we can all learn together and we can show you how we're learning from each step that we're taking in building up this homestead. So we hope you stick around, and I hope you have a great day, friend. We'll see you next time.